Hi, I'm David Ozersky, and I'm a senior technical consultant at Turnkey. And we're going to talk about, very briefly, the GP web client, and then go into GP workflow, and kind of go from there. So the GP web client allows you to log in from a browser, and in 2016, it also allows you to do not just Internet Explorer, but Chrome, Firefox. You can do it from a tablet, phone, that type of thing. So what you do have to have is the web client installed on a web server, and then you also, from a technical standpoint, have to have Active Directory accounts that have permissions to that web server in order to log in. So when you do log in, you'll see a screen like this, and then you'll log in with your, say, your network password. Oops, wrong way. So here you can see I put in password, login and password. You get the same screen just as you would on your own computer. And here you would take and log in with your normal GP login, that user and password there as well. Now, there are, I'm not going to go into this detail, but if you have like web-only users, that it will have a connection to their network login and then log in straight into GP. But that's not part of the discussion today. So here you'll see you get to your home page. It'll look just like your home page if you logged in from your normal computer, the same option settings and what have you. From here you'll see you can bring down the drop down. You'll be able to change the date, the user, the company. These are just those examples. So everything that you can do on your desktop version, you can do from a web page. And then when you exit out, you get the nice little, you successfully exited GP. All right, so now for the fun stuff. So workflow using web services. So the web client is one piece. Web services is another piece. I won't go into the technical details behind that, but it is a separate installation on your web server. So the setup workflow, you would go to your administration screen. There's web workflow setup. So within the workflow setup, you have the ability to enable email for workflow and then email actions. And so part of the setup is you can verify that the email works based on the configuration. And this guy down here is tied to the web services configuration, saying that you succeeded. And later on, I'll show you where the web service email acknowledgement is. I'll receive an email that I can take and approve, reject, review a workflow. So once we have the workflow set up initially, then you go into the company and go into workflow. So the workflow maintenance is at the top. I'm going to quickly go through the workflow calendar and then email setup. So the workflow calendar you set up determines timelines on approvals, when things are overdue, things like that. Straight out of the box, you just set, leave it as it is, it'll be fine. But it helps for setting deadlines if you need to. Email setup with workflow. there's different types of emails that can go out depending on the type of workflow that you have. So these are standard out-of-the-box emails, and you'll see example of that later, a little bit here. But I can also customize the types of emails that I want set out depending on the type of workflow that I have going on. So if I were to get into one of these, what I see here is the layout of, this is for a purchase requisition approval. This is the body. So it has fields off the document that will format what the email looks like that's delivered to you. And then it also gives you the ability to add information, say on a particular line of, if I want lines of a requisition out there, I can add that information too. So now we're going into the workflow maintenance piece. So this is the first screen you get to, and you can see there's 6 different types: financial, sales, purchasing, payroll, project, and administration. So there's 6 different types of workflows that we can create, and underneath there's different workflow types that I'm able to utilize. So today I'm just going to show you purchasing. So when I come into the workflow, I'm taking purchase requisition approval, and one of the first things you need to do is, for that top level workflow type, you need to assign a manager. So you'll be able to hit on the spyglass, go out there and pick someone who would be managing that particular workflow. So I had created a top-level test approval, and then I have a step called test requisition. I said this step is always required. I'm going to assign it to myself. I can apply the workflow calendar, send messages at the workflow assignment PO rec approval. So that way it will go to me. You can also say, have multiple people assigned to that. When we get into approvals, you can have just only one response, most of the people, or everybody has to. So underneath this step, I also created some other sub-steps. And there's different ways to group this. Just for demonstration purposes, I put them all under one. And here what I'm demonstrating is that this particular step is only required when a condition is met. So when I come out here, I have the ability to build a different conditions for that particular workflow step. So here, and you'll see there's drop down. So I said we're document amount is greater than and includes 10,000. I hit the add button, hit OK, and then it saves it back out there. Again, I assign this to me, since this is all done on my own personal computer. Let me step back real bit. So under the assign to see where I assign it, who I can assign it to, it brings me to this workflow user selection. And I have 3 different ways that I can select who that assignment's going to, or that approval process is going to go to. So there's people and groups, hierarchy, and workflow role. So people and groups is based on, again, Active Directory users. So I type my name in, I hit the find button, hit add, it adds me down here. I can add multiple people. I believe I can also do like a distribution group if I have an Active Directory distribution group, so I want to select that. From a hierarchy selection type, the hierarchy is actually hierarchy that's developed in Active Directory itself. So this would take, it's not a user function, it's more of an IT function where you know, if they have it set up correctly, you're like, my manager is Mike Sinclair. Mike Sinclair's manager is Russ Dobbins. So that hierarchy set up in your Active Directory is what drives this. So that's where you can see workflow manager, originator, you know, where to start from hierarchy-wise. And then on the assign to is direct manager. You can skip level of manager, number of levels. If you selected number of levels, it tells you how far back or how deep you want to go. And lastly, based on workflow role, where the originator, the manager, alternate final approver, requested by whomever. So once I have these set up, you can see this is at the top level here. It shows you the different conditions, the different steps. So this one's always going to run. This one's going to run when approval is over 10,000, 5,000, 1,000. You can have the approver to allow delegates. The originator can be the approver, require at least one approver, use an alternate approver, that type of thing. So then also as far as sending notifications for completed actions. So we'll step into that real quick. So from here you can see different types of notifications. When it's submitted, resubmitted, here I said, you know, approve, send action completed. It's rejected, send action completed, approval. And again, I can carve in people, similar type of workflow selection, people, groups, hierarchy, workflow role. So I can create another workflow with steps underneath it, but you can only have one workflow active at a time. So you can see that under purchase requisition approval, I have two steps, or two different workflows. The one with the circle and check mark is the one that, so if I were to come up here and put a check mark in here and go to save it, I'll get this message. You already have an active workflow. Activating this will deactivate the other one. So let me say tell you. So at this level, only one can be active at a time. Okay? So I can have this top level workflow and multiple different steps underneath it. And a lot of it is conditional on, you know, how you want that particular workflow to go and who you want it to go to. So here now I'm on a purchase requisition that I created, and we can see the total's over 10,000. So once I have this completed, saved, everything's good, I can come up and hit submit. And here you can see it says test approval not submitted. When I hit submit, it gives me a place to put a comment on the action, goes along with the workflow. So this particular one, it was rejected. So why was it rejected? When I'm on it, and once the workflow has been submitted, I have a view history button that becomes available. So when I hit the view history, comes up, it'll show you what step it's on, give you what the error is. So now when I get back, come back in, actually the submit button said resubmit. I resubmitted it. It went through. So now it's pending approval. Come back to view history. Here you can see that it was resubmitted by me. And now it's waiting, it's pending an action. So you remember earlier I was talking about the email that I received. So this is the email that I got saying that the test requisition step, purchase requisition approval workflow for this particular requisition, I have to perform some action. So from here, I can approve, reject, delegate. I can click on this. It'll take you and show me the information behind the requisition in an email. So this can be, again, on my handheld device, on my tablet, at home. I don't have to be in the office on my computer. Yes.
On the workflow, and you said where you show that email goes out to the improvement, and they have a time frame, let's say like 8 hours to approve it, then just kick back to you?
If it was set up that way, yes. So here, if you, I go back to my home page, and you can see under purchase requisitions, I have a pending action. It shows up here nicely. So I'm going to go and click on approving. So now I come in here and I see, here's this requisition. I have to take and check the requisition. And I can come and then apply whatever I want to on the workflow. I can approve it, delegate it, reject it, what have you. So once I go through approval, I can put a comment on here, then say approve. And it tells me you successfully approved or completed. So again, I went back into workflow history. You can see that I approved it here. I was just approving that requisition. Well, it also went to, I needed 3 others because these could have been 3 different people that have to approve purchases over different amounts, okay? So I can see that I still have pending actions here. So that particular person who's responsible for approving over 10,000 would get the same email, and they could also accept, reject, delegate, what have you. Everyone's approved, final approval, requisition's ready to go.